I mean, the fourth type, or one of the kind of market structure is oligopoly. The main characteristic of an oligopoly is that only a small number of firms control the whole industry. So this is the main feature, that the number of firms in an oligopoly market is very less. Or in other words, we can say that that industry is dominated by few players, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around like things like that. But majority of the market share is in the hands of few players. The industry is dominated by few players, large firms, large companies that dominate that particular product category of that industry. As far as products are concerned, they can be differentiated also and homogeneous also. So in some cases, there are examples of oligopoly where the product is differentiated, and there are examples where the product is homogeneous. For example, in case of oil marketing companies, the product is homogeneous. The petrol or the diesel or that is sold by different oil marketing firms are all the same. They are homogeneous. They are like commodity. They cannot be differentiated from the product of another competitor. But there are examples of oligopoly market where the products are differentiated also. So through some labeling, through some packaging, through some marketing and branding, sometimes an oligopolist tries to differentiate its product from the rest of the market. As far as entry is concerned, entry in the market, that entry in the market is restricted, and which means it is very difficult or almost impossible for a new player to enter into that industry, because that industry is already dominated by few players that control that whole particular industry. The main feature of oligopoly market is interdependence. Interdependence here means that any business decision that one company takes in an oligopoly market has an impact on the decisions and performance of the other companies that are operating in that oligopoly market. And it's not that somebody else action will not impact our business. So if we take some decision, it will impact the other players in that industry. If others are taking some business decisions regarding pricing, regarding promotion, regarding product, regarding expansion of that business, so all these business decisions impact the performance of other players in the industry. So this is called interdependence. What one firm does will have an impact on its rivals. Pricing, output, advertising involve strategic consideration. So, for example, in India, we can give an example from the telecom industry, that if one particular telecom company increases the tariff, and if the rest will decide not to increase the tariff, then most probably customers will shift. They will port their numbers from maybe from Airtel to Jio, or Jio to Airtel, or whatever is beneficial for the customers. They may port their numbers from one to another. So this will impact the profits of the other business. So all firms in that operate in oligopoly market are interdependent on each other. So whether they are taking decisions regarding pricing or level of output, how much expenditure on advertising should be made, all these things have, impact on the other firms that are operating in that oligopoly market. So what happens? First, one particular company decides something. This decision invokes a reaction from the competitor. And when the competitor reacts, then reaction to reaction, the original starter, the company that has taken the initiative of the decision will react to the reaction of the competitor. And this chain of action and reaction to reaction and reaction to reaction to reaction will continue. So if this action reaction and reaction to reaction, if this keeps happening, then there are two possibilities. There are only two possibilities, possibility 1 and possibility 2. The first possibility is cooperation. The firms may decide to cooperate with each other. Firms may decide to cooperate with each other. This cooperation is also called collude. That they collude, they develop some understanding among themselves that we will behave like that. We will cooperate with each other. So if one increases the price, another will also increase the price. So so they have colluded with each other. They are cooperating with each other. So this is one possibility. Another possibility is that the cooperation among oligopolies may not fructify, may not develop, and instead of cooperating, they may compete with each other. They may compete with each other. So competing with each other means they are not cooperating with each other, but actually they are competing. So whatever is the field of competition, for example, it may be pricing, it may be advertising also, because if one company is advertising and another company is not advertising, so the company which is advertising will gain more customers and clients, and the company which decides not to spend anything on marketing, that company will suffer. But if both decide not to advertise, then both companies will benefit, because they will not incur any expenses on the marketing. So their marketing expenditure will reduce. So the point is that in an oligopoly market, there are only two possibilities. Because of competition, because of interdependence, because of decision, reaction to reaction, and so forth, there are two possibilities. The first possibility is cooperation, and the second possibility is competition. So either the firms may decide to cooperate with each other, or they may decide to not to cooperate with each other, not to collude with each other, and compete with each other. From the perspective of customers and consumers, if firms collude, that is, in that case, customers will suffer, because in that case, customers have to pay more. And if they decide to compete with each other, and in that case, customers will be beneficiary, consumers will be beneficiary, because they will get, because of competition, they will get a competitive price, a good price, a lower price. So let us talk about this cooperation and competition and elaborate with some examples. Okay. So whenever we talk about an oligopoly, the game theory comes into play, because game theory has its applications in the case of oligopoly market. What happens in a game? There are players, there are rules, they play their turn. They take some strategy, and after taking that action, they either gain or they lose. So there is some payoff of that strategy. So the same situation happens in case of an oligopoly market, that there are competitors, they have some strategic options in front of them. For example, to increase the price or not to increase the price, or to advertise or not to advertise. So this is just like a game. So and this so we can analyze an oligopoly market from the perspective of a game theory also. From the perspective of this is a particular branch of study in economics that is known as game theory, where different games are designed, and the behavior of the players in that game, and how equilibrium is achieved, whether they are cooperating with each other in that game or they are competing with each other. This aspect is analyzed. So similar in the similar spirit, we can analyze an oligopoly market also using game theory. So what is game theory? Economists use the word game to refer to any situation involving at least two people, because to play any particular game, we should have at least two players. There should be two players. It may be three also, more than two also, but the requirement is the presence of at least two people. So two people, that requires those involved to think strategically. Thinking strategically means thinking long term. This is I mean, when we use this word strategic means thinking in long term, and thinking not only about oneself, but also looking at the larger picture. So the study of how people behave strategically under different circumstances is called game theory. So in this particular strand of literature, in this particular field of study, we study the behavior of players. Behavior of players. Who are the players? Players are those persons who play that game. So we study the behavior of the players. And as I have already mentioned, that there are two possibilities. Either players may decide to cooperate with each other, with other players, or they may decide not to cooperate and compete with each other. Instead of cooperating, they may decide to compete with each other. And the objective, of course, the objective of every business is to earn profit most of the time. There are some other possibilities also, but in most of the cases, profit maximization, earning maximization is the ultimate objective. And when they play a particular game, their aim is to maximize their profit. So if they think that competing is best for them, they decide to compete. If they think that cooperating with each other is good, in that case they decide to cooperate. But I will explain later that if they cooperate with each other, then their profit can be maximum. They can maximize the profit if they are able to cooperate with each other. So this is normally when we analyze any particular game.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, so we are basically saying that the game theory is just a strategy that the firms are using in an oligopoly market. That's it, now.
Yes,
Hello?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
game theory. We can analyze a particular oligopoly market using the lens of game theory. We can think about companies that they are players and they are taking actions. So just like it happens in any particular game. So these are some of the terminologies that are used when we analyze a particular game. Say, for example, there are some rules that determine what actions are allowable. So this is one feature of any game. Another feature of game is strategies that players employ to attain their objectives of the game. So every player has some strategies, options, or actions, what actions they can take. So because if there is no option, then it will not be a game. So if in front of every player, there are some strategies. So the action is called strategy in that game. Then the third terminology is payoff. Payoff means the result of the interaction, the result of that the strategies and the interaction that happens between players. So that result is called payoff. Payoff that are the results of the interaction among the players' strategies. Business strategy, actions taken by a firm to achieve a goal such as maximization of profit. So because the number of firms in an oligopolistic market is small, each firm must act strategically. I mean, whenever a firm takes decision, it should think about other firms also, not only about itself, because every action will ignite or will invite a reaction from our competitor. So that should be kept in mind before taking any decision. Because the number of firms in an oligopolistic market is small, each firm must act strategically. Behaving strategically means acting to achieve a goal by anticipating the interplay. यानी हम आइसोलेशन में डिसीजन नहीं ले रहे कि our decisions will impact only our business. Our others' decision will also impact us, and our decisions will impact others also. So there is interplay between different players in the oligopoly market. So when your outcomes depend, not only on your outcome depends on another's choices. So this is the feature, that our outcome not only depends on our own action, but also on the actions of others. What others are doing is also impacting our business, our performance. So each firm knows that its profit depends not only on how much it produces, but also on how much the other firms are producing. So just initially that I have started two words, that firms may decide to cooperate with each other or they decide to compete with each other. So these are the two equilibrium that is achieved in any repeated game. That if we design any particular game and repeat then that game among those players, so at the end of that whenever after some time, if they decide to cooperate with each other, that situation is called cooperative equilibrium. Cooperative equilibrium. Cooperative equilibrium means after playing a lot of game, all the players have learned to cooperate with each other. So that situation is called cooperative equilibrium. An equilibrium in a game in which players cooperate to increase their mutual payoff. Because if they cooperate with each other, in that case, their mutual payoff will be more. I mean, if they cooperate, then both, every player will be, the payoff of every player will be maximum in case of cooperation. So this is the trick. But if they decide to compete with each other, that is called non-cooperative equilibrium, which is the result of competition among players. So an equilibrium in a game in which players do not cooperate but pursue their own self-interest. So this self-interest actually, it looks very attractive, but because of self-interest, their profit declines. And because of cooperation among themselves, their profit is maximized. But you may think that if cooperating with each other is beneficial for everyone, then why they decide to compete with each other? So once I will give some exact examples, then this point will become clear that cooperation is not easy, and in some cases it is illegal also. For example, cartel, this is the word. There are government bodies that keep monitoring this situation also, that in any particular industry cartels should not be developed. For example, in airline industry, what happens in an airline industry is that in some particular routes, say for example from Delhi to Kochi or Delhi to, so if there are only 2-3 airlines, then all those 2-3 airlines may decide to increase the tariffs on that route. And in this case, every airline is enjoying. There is a tacit agreement among themselves. So, but if more players enter into that market because of competition in that route, the tariffs will reduce. So in some cases it is illegal also if they develop a cartel. Cartel means there is some agreement. It may be implicit agreement also, and because of that agreement, the competition is non-existent. So that is called cartel. So to demonstrate how game theory can be applied in case of oligopoly market, there is an example that is known as prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma. So the prisoner's dilemma is an example that demonstrates the application of game theory in oligopoly market. The prisoner's dilemma provides insight into the difficulty in maintaining cooperation. So it is difficult to maintain cooperation. It is not easy. It is not easy. So often firms fail to cooperate with one another, even when cooperation would make them better off. So if they decide to cooperate, both will be better off, but often they fail to cooperate. So the prisoner's dilemma is a particular game between two captured prisoners that illustrates why cooperation is difficult. So using this example, I will show you that why it is difficult to maintain cooperation. Okay. So now try to understand the situation. These are the two criminals, Bonnie and Clyde. The police officer has arrested both of them, and the police officer has kept them in separate cells in jail. The police officer goes to Bonnie and Clyde separately and gives them this option that if both of you remain silent, then both of you have to spend 1 year of jail, 1 year time in jail. And if both of you confess that for the crime, then both of you have to spend 8 years of jail. 8 years of jail. And if one of you remains silent and another confesses, so the person who confesses will go free, and the person who remains silent has to spend 20 years in jail. Now put yourself in this situation. Assume that you and your friends have been arrested and the police officer has given you this option, and there is no way that you can so in the original example, the communication between the prisoners was also not allowed, but that is not a major assumption. Even if you assume that you can communicate with your friend, that these two prisoners can communicate with each other also. So what is optimal for both of them, or what is optimal for a particular prisoner? So should they confess or should they not confess? So this example is called prisoner's dilemma. So this is the dilemma, because if both decide to remain silent, but they do not have trust on the other party. Say, for example, Clyde and Bonnie both know that it is beneficial if it is optimal if they both remain silent. Then they have to spend only 1 year of jail, uh, uh, 1 year of time in jail they have to spend. But inside themselves, they also know that the other party can cheat them. They may decide not to cooperate, and so what will happen? One will remain silent, and if another confesses because of greed, that if I will confess because उससे तो मैंने agreement कर लिया है, वो तो चुप रहेगा, तो चलो मैं confess कर लेता हूँ. So if I will confess, then I will go free, and he has to spend 20 years in jail. So this is the dilemma: to trust another party or not to trust another player. So in this case, the dilemma is whether Clyde should trust Bonnie, or I mean, it should be bi-directional. Both should trust each other. Bonnie and Clyde should have mutual trust on each other. Only then the optimal situation or optimal equilibrium will be achieved. Optimal equilibrium in this example is if both remain silent. In that case, that situation is optimal. So this situation is optimal. This situation is optimal. That if both remain silent, but if they suspect each other, if they don't have trust on each other, in that case, everyone think that what if other party cheats us? They have convinced us that they have promised, but they may not keep their promise. They have agreed that they will remain silent. But what if one decides to confess? Because the enticement is very big, because if they will confess, they will go free. They will go free. So in that, if they both decide to not trust each other, if they don't have trust in each other, in that case, the optimal situation is confessing. So both will confess, and both have to spend 8 years of jail in this case. So this is the equilibrium which is achieved if they cooperate with each other. This is the cooperation. This is cooperation, and this is competition. This is competition, and this one is cooperation. So why cooperation is difficult? Because of the issue of trust, because of the issue of cheating, because if one will cheat, then another party will suffer a lot. In this case, say for example, if Clyde decide to confess, so Clyde will go free. He is not supposed to spend any time in jail, but then Bonnie will suffer, and the suffering is very big. Bonnie has to spend 20 years in jail. So basically, Clyde has cheated, and because of his dishonesty, because of the this behavior, Bonnie is suffering. And the opposite situation may also happen, that Bonnie may decide to confess, and in that case, Clyde has to spend 20 years of jail. So to avoid these two worst situations, they will both confess, and they both have to spend 8 years of jail to avoid 20 years of jail. So this equilibrium is called the equilibrium because of competition, and this equilibrium is called equilibrium because of cooperation. And अब जैसे बिल्कुल प्लेन ऐसे देखिए कि if they cooperate with each other, then both will be in a good position. The payoff is maximum for both of them. But if they both decide to compete with each other, compete means they are not trusting each other. So in that case, both have to spend, both have to suffer. Their payoff will be less. Understood? So this is the prisoner's dilemma. And now let me give you the parallel example from the industry. I mean, the situation will be same, the payoff and I mean, all these things. This is competition, this is cooperation. Cooperation is beneficial, but it's most of the time they fail to maintain this cooperation, and instead of cooperation, they decide to cooperate with each other. In that case, both suffer. Okay, so this is an example from advertising. There are two companies, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. The decision is to advertise or not to advertise. So if both decide to advertise, if not to advertise, then their profit will be maximum. So this is the cooperation. If they cooperate with each other and do not try to snatch the market share from the other player, cooperate, in that case their profit will be maximum, because in that case they don't need to spend any amount of money on advertising. The market size is fixed. The market size cannot be increased. So whatever is the market, if Coca-Cola decides to advertise, then some people will shift from Pepsi to Coca-Cola, so it will the other company will suffer. But if they both decide not to advertise, then in that case they don't have to spend any amount on advertising. So this is the matrix, that if they both decide not to advertise, in that case their profit will be maximum. And if because of competition both decide to advertise, both are advertising aggressively, or they're competing with each other, so the market size is same. I mean, so every player is trying to snatch the customers of another company. So another company will also spend some amount of money on advertising. So both are spending a lot of money on advertising. So what will happen? Their profit will come down because of marketing and advertising expenditure. So in equilibrium, their profit will be 500 million profit. So this is cooperation. This is cooperation. And this is competition. Competition. So if they compete with each other, their profits will come down. And if they decide to cooperate with each other, then the payoff will be better for both of the players. In this example, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, both will be beneficial if they both decide not to advertise. But to develop this cooperation among themselves, first, most of the time they have to, pass through this non-optimal equilibrium, that is competition, because they will not trust each other, and one party will start advertising. So one party will start advertising, then what will happen? The company which is not advertising, for example, Coca-Cola is not advertising. So if it is not advertising, its customers will shift to Pepsi, and so the Pepsi will earn more because the Coca-Cola customers, because of advertising of Pepsi, will shift to Pepsi. So one party will earn a lot, another party will not earn, because then both will start advertising. So if both will start advertising, then the profit of both of the company will reduce to 500. Then if they think with the strategically, then they will realize that it is beneficial if they both don't advertise, because advertising expenditure and fighting with each other for customers is unnecessary. And the expenditure on marketing unnecessary, because the market is almost stagnant. So let us keep the situation as it is, not fight with each other and cooperate with each other. In that case, their payoff will be maximum. This is another example. Okay. So when a game is played repeatedly, that is called repeated interaction or repeated game. So if a game is played repeatedly, players may engage in strategic behavior. So they will think about long term. So because in the short run, both will suffer. But in the long run, if they develop cooperation, then that is beneficial and their payoff will be maximum. So sacrificing short-run profit to influence future behavior in repeated dilemma games, tit for tat is often good strategy. So tit for tat is often a good strategy. Tit for tat means we will look whether the other party is cooperating or not. If they are cooperating, then we will also cooperate. But if another party is not cooperating, then we will compete. So tit for tat is often a good strategy, leading to successful tacit collusion. So if every party in that game is following this tit for tat, then in the long run, in a repeated game, tit collusion will develop, and every player will learn that collusion is in their best interest. What is tit for tat involves playing cooperatively at first. So first we will cooperate. We will not cheat. We will not cheat. We will cooperate. Then doing whatever the other player did in the previous period. So if our competitor, if our rival is not cooperating, then we will also not cooperate. And if if the rival is cooperating, then we will cooperate. So this is called tit for tat. So tit for tat is a strategy in case of oligopoly market, in case of game theory. So when firms limit production and raise prices in a way that raises each other's profit, even though they have not made a formal agreement, they are engaged in tacit collusion. So this is called tacit collusion because the agreement is not written. There is no formal agreement, but the agreement is implicit and tacit. Although oligopolists would like to form cartels, earn monopoly profits, often that is not possible. So because of antitrust laws, because there are some laws, जैसे इंडिया के अंदर है कंपटीशन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया CCI. So CCI monitors the situation regarding competition, regarding tacit collusion among different companies. So if tacit collusion is happening, the Competition Commission of India will take some action. So sometimes tacit collusion is illegal also. Cartel is illegal also. So antitrust laws prohibit explicit agreements among oligopolies as a matter of policy. So this is all for today, and your third unit is now complete. So tomorrow, Thursday. So tomorrow, maybe I will not engage the class, and from Monday onwards, Walid sir will engage the economics class from fourth unit. So this is the information that I wanted to share with you. If there is any question or observation you want to make, you can do that.
So can you please explain this tacit collusion again? There's some confusion.
Yes, so can you please?
Tacit collusion simply means that because of repeated game, because of the repeated game, every player develops an understanding with the, and that understanding is not in the form of some written and formal agreement, because companies can enter into agreements with each other also. So if they are not entering into some formal agreement, but there is some unwritten agreement, only oral agreement or tacit agreement, implicit agreement, and they are cooperating with each other. Say, for example, if there are two airlines, then they may decide among themselves without any formal agreement that we will both raise the prices on this particular route. So we can say that there is tacit collusion among those airlines because they both are increasing the prices.
So basically they are working in cooperation with each other, and that cooperation is known as tacit collusion.
Yes, and tacit means it is not written. There is no formal agreement, but informal agreement, unwritten agreement.
Okay, so answer in prisoner's dilemma, like the prisoners are the players or the firms that are like that are in the economy that are competing against each other or with each other, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Companies are like these players, and this is just extension. I mean, Pepsi and Coca-Cola example, and this example, these prisoners example is almost same.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.